In the last two videos, we learned how to overload operators like arithmetic operators and comparison operators, and in this video we learned what are friend functions, so make sure to check out these videos if you haven't. Well, today we will learn how to overload the insertion operator and the extraction operator in C++ OOP. Overloading the extraction and insertion operator allows us to create a custom behavior to output and input, because the insertion operator is used for output and the extraction operator is used for input. So let's go ahead and create a class called person. This person class will have a private data member, which will be the string name of the person. Now in the public section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define a constructor. The constructor will be person. A constructor is used to initialize data members. This constructor will receive, a string name, and what I will do is I will initialize my data member by assigning the value received by the constructor. Now let's go ahead and overload first of all the insertion operator. The insertion operator is used in cout. So when you say cout hello, for example, this right here is the insertion operator. So what we basically want to do here with the insertion operator is we want to overload it. So we basically want to create a custom output for ourselves. So how to do this? Well, basically the insertion operator is an operator. So I will use the operator function and mention that I want to overload the insertion operator, which is this one. Now the thing is about this insertion operator function is that it should be a friend function. And a friend function is a function that doesn't belong to the class, but it is a function that was granted access, was granted permission to access the private data members of the class. But either way, this function should have a return type. What will be the return type? The return type will be ostream, like this. And what is exactly ostream? Well, ostream is output stream, and because we are working with insertion operator, and the insertion operator is also called an output stream operator, it is used to, manipulate outputs. That is why we need to use ostream. And why do we have the reference operator before the return type, after the return type? Well, this basically means that we want the return object ostream by reference. Well, we know that functions return something, right? This returned object, it will be stored inside memory. When we put the reference operator on the return type, we mean we want to get the original value in memory. However, if we take it off, that means the function will return a copy of the returned value, that's stored in memory. That is why I mentioned this reference operator. Now this function right here should take two arguments or parameters. The first one will be an ostream object, which I will call it out, and the second one will be a person object, which I will call it object. And you notice that both of them are passed by reference in order to get the original value in memory. And now you might be asking, why do I have an ostream object right here? What should we use it for? Well, I'm going to use it in order to overload the insertion operator. Let's see how. What I will do is I'll say out like this and use the insertion operator. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat it as a normal cout, just like what we do in cout. I'm just going to give a message. What I'm going to say is I'm going to say name like this, and I'm going to say object.name. And because this is a friend function, and because friend functions are able to access private data members, we were able right here to access the private data member because this function is a friend function. Now I'm going to say endl like this. Now because this function needs to return an ostream object, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say return out, the ostream object right here. Now you might be asking, will this actually overload the insertion operator? Well, let's go ahead and see. If I go down here and say person1 and give the person a name like John, if I go ahead and say something like cout person1, let's go ahead and see what will happen. As you can see, we got name John. So what happened is that when you say cout person1, this function will be called, the function that overloads the insertion operator. What it will do is it will create this output stream and it will return it. And so there it is, we got our message right here. So what we did right now is we overloaded the insertion operator or the output stream operator. Now let's find out how we could overload the extraction operator. The extraction operator is the one used in Cin, like this, This is the extraction operator. Let's go ahead and overload it. So right here, inside the class, I'm going to overload the extraction operator. And the extraction operator is also a friend function just like the insertion operator. But instead right here I will say extraction operator like this. Now when we are using extraction operator, we are working with input. So it is an input stream operator. That's why we will use istream. And istream stands for input stream. So this function right here is similar to this function, but the difference is the return type and the parameter given here. So instead of ostream here, I'm going to say istream because I am working with input. And of course, I will be mentioning person object like this. Now what I will do is I will simply say something like in and mention the extraction operator to overload it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say object.name. So what I'm doing is I'm receiving the input and storing it inside the data member name of the object. Okay. Now, because this function returns or needs to return an istream object, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say return in. Now, how does this work? Let's go ahead and see. Let's say, for example, here I said change your name like this. So change name. Okay. When I use cin right here and say person1, what will happen is that this function will be called, and what we'll do is it will allow us to give input, and this input will change the data member name of the object, and of course it will return the istream object. Now what will happen is that I will go ahead down here and say cout person1 again just to see the before and after, and what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to compile again and launch. As you can see, this is the cout and this is the cin. They are asking us to change the name. Let's say David. As you can see, it works properly. So this function was called, it allowed us to give input, and which we gave input and it changed the object name or the name of the object, and then we use cout in order to display the name of the object using our operator function right here, which overloaded the insertion operator. And this is it for overloading these operators, the insertion and the extraction operator for output and input stream. Other than that, make sure to check out this video about how to overload these other operators like arithmetic operators and comparison operators, or check out this video to learn more about friend functions.